If you're afraid of the banks, then you're probably not good with money. In this video, I'm gonna be breaking down 5 secret banking tips that you guys need to know in order to be able to 1, maximize your funding, and 2, making sure that we're looking at the banks as a partner and not an enemy, and 3, make sure that you guys are able to leverage the bank's money in order to be able to make yourself more money. So without further ado, let's get into this video. All right, so I know a lot of people are often really scared about the banks, right? A lot of people just fear them. They think that the banks literally hold a lot of power. If you really ask most people what the bank represents and how they actually get money, so most people will be clueless on exactly how the banks work. Some people think that banks are governmental agencies and basically the government just funds them, and so they're just there just to be able to be propped up and the banks can't go out of business. And that's absolutely not the case. So the banks are literally in business to be able to make money and actually make a profit. But the secret, right, is that they need you in order to be able to do so. And especially if you want to go ahead and change your life, using the bank's money is going to be super crucial. Now, I don't know if it's homegrown, if it's taught at the house. Most people really fear the banks just due to the fact that 1, they probably had a bad experience. 2, they just had a lot of misinformation as far as what the banks represent and how they actually work. Or 3, they're just afraid of rejection, right? They don't want to go into the bank thinking that they're going to go ahead and get denied. And really, after this video, you should never look at the bank as an enemy. You guys have to look at it like this. The only way that the bank can actually make money is if they go ahead and lend you money. Due to the fractional reserve banking, right, how it actually works. So for every dollar that you give them, they're able to go ahead and actually give out $9 more. So that's why they want to be able to have your business. They want to be able to have you depositing money. And especially with the banks, it takes money in order for them to make money. So they need your actual deposits. That's why it's super important to understand that banks definitely need you. Like, you are the customer. You're the person that makes the bank go around. And I know a lot of banks, sometimes they go with, I know some banks, right, they try to prioritize profits over people. So whenever you guys go into the bank, stop being scared as far as being able to ask for some money. Stop being scared of asking for some money. The banks literally need you. The banks want to be able to approve you for credit. They want to be able to help you get that loan, that credit card, that car, because they make money off of interest. So when the banks make money off of interest, of course they're going to want to make sure that they actually lend you money. But the one thing that the bank does not like is to lose money. So that's why you have to make sure that before you go into the bank, you know exactly how the bank works, and you also have all of your different ducks in a row. So really the importance, right, of understanding the banking, right, especially how I learned about it, is that you want to be able to turn yourself from a consumer into a producer, right? When you go ahead and look at the bank, right, you often look at it like, I'm just going to go ahead and work, right? And then at the end of the week, I'll just simply deposit all my money into the banking account. My money would just be sitting at the bank while the bank turns around and flips it. It makes about 20 to 50% on my money, while my money barely gets 0.001. So whenever you understand how banking works, right, we want to make sure that you're taking advantage of all the different programs that they have. If you're a savvy investor, you're going to go ahead and make sure that you, 1, right, you actually go ahead and take advantage of high yield savings accounts they have, right? You want to make sure that you take advantage of this high yield savings accounts, taking advantage of relationship banking, where you literally are able to go ahead and go inside the branch. Yeah, you're actually really cool with a staff member. They can be able to give you better terms and also make sure to let you know about different programs that they have to offer. That's why it's so important that you know that banks need you in order to be able to survive. And number 2, banks want you to save money, but they don't save themselves. So whenever you guys are going to the bank, right, they'll give you guys a checking account, and then they'll also give you guys a savings account. Next time you go ahead and open up a savings account, go ahead and ask them what's that daily interest rate that you're actually getting for keeping your money in that account. So most of the times banks want you to go ahead and actually save, but they don't actually save themselves. So whenever you go ahead and open up a new savings account, what's the daily interest that I'm going to actually keep in this bank for letting my money sit there? Most of the times it's going to be 0.003. It's going to literally be the bare minimum. Yes, you have some banks that might give you 1%, 2%, but that's really the best you're going to get unless you go into a high yield savings account. That's exactly why you want to be able to understand this, because if you actually have a savings account with the bank that's giving you barely anything on your money, you would want to go ahead and convert that into a high yield savings account, which would give you 3%, 4% on your actual money. So that's going to help you guys out in the long run a lot more than just a traditional savings account. But the trick is that the banks actually don't even save your money. To them, it's literally all numbers on the screen, right? So what they'll actually do is go ahead and actually invest with your actual money in order to be able to invest in different assets. They'll take it into stocks, they'll take it into Forex, they'll take it to different crypto, they'll take it to different investments, so they can be able to actually make money from your money. So the banks actually want you to save, but they don't save themselves. That's definitely one of the major secrets you definitely have to understand, especially when you're learning more and more about banking. So number 3 secret, right? There's a lot of different programs, right, that you might even qualify for, but you probably don't even know that exists, right? You have to think about it like this. Whenever you go into the bank, a lot of times they're advertising for the majority. So whenever they're advertising for the majority, and most of them are definitely not going to qualify for the veteran-owned businesses. So whenever they're actually advertising a lot of their products, their programs, especially if you're walking into the branch, sitting down with the banker, this banker, you're probably his 6th or 7th meeting that simple day. He's probably open only checking accounts all day. So he's not going to mention that, oh, we actually do have a minority owned program here, or we actually do have a first time home buyers program that you can actually qualify for. So understand exactly before we even walk into the bank, right? You definitely want to make sure to do some research. Then you're going to know all the different programs, because most of the times they're not even going to advertise it. So you want to make sure that whenever you're going ahead and reaching out to the banks and also telling them, let them know exactly what your situation is and what you're trying to accomplish. Number 4 secret is that banks literally make billions of dollars each and every single year just off of overdraft fees. $20 and $30 fees definitely add up. In 2024 alone, Chase and Wells Fargo literally made over $1 billion each just off of overdraft protection. I've had this happen before where they'll literally go ahead and charge me a fee beforehand, right? And so really what you want to do is be more proactive rather than reactive, because once you're actually going ahead and being more proactive, then you're actually looking at your account every single day. Like myself, I go ahead and wake up. First thing I'm doing is checking out all my accounts, right? You want to make sure that you're really proactive ahead of time so that the overdraft fees don't accumulate, because trust me, if you let these banks go ahead and actually try to charge these overdraft fees, they will, because they're trying to go ahead and make money. And it might not seem like a lot, $30 here, $20 here, but it really starts to add up, right? And that's why, and you'll see a lot of different banks, right? They're literally getting sued just due to the fact that they're charging a lot of overdraft fees. Whenever you have those overdraft fees, don't let them slide. Go ahead and call the bank up and actually ask them to go ahead and waive the fees. A lot of times, most banks will waive the fees if you guys haven't had a lot of overdraft fees in the past. So that's definitely a strategy that you definitely want to keep in mind, especially if you guys are wanting to be able and make sure you're on top of the business. And who wants to even give out $30 to $40? I don't care how much money I have. That's definitely still money that could have been better used for something else. So that's really why you want to make sure the overdraft fees don't add up. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, has actually put a law in place where they're going to go ahead and cap it at $5 of maximum for overdraft fees for most major banks. So this is actually going to take into effect in October of 2025. They're not going to be able to charge you guys more than $5 for any overdraft fees. So definitely keep that in mind. But just make sure you're proactive so you don't even get those in the first place. And the 5th and last secret that we're going to be talking about, right, is to literally go ahead and use banks in order to go ahead and create wealth. So like I mentioned earlier in this video, you always want to be a producer, not a consumer at all. We don't want to go and start spending our money just to be able to make somebody else rich. I'd rather go ahead and use the bank's money in order to be able to get myself rich, right? Different strategies you guys can be able to use is to literally use the bank's money, right? So that's why it's so important to have the banks as a partner and not necessarily as an enemy. Because once you have the banks as a partner, think about it, right? It's almost like a relationship with a family member, a business partner. I would just treat them just like that. I would treat the banks just like a business partner, because once you start to have good relations with them on the personal side, then you can go ahead and start to go onto the business side. And that way you guys can be able to get lines of credit. You guys can be able to get credit cards. And whenever we're getting these credit cards, right? So we can go ahead and take OPM, right? So other people's money. And then you got OPM, so other people's money right here. And then what we'll do is that we'll actually go ahead, and this is the bank's money, right? Bank's money, because we're giving them our money so they can lend it out, right? And so what they're doing is they're taking our money, right? And so whenever they take your money and they go ahead and lend it out, so basically what they're doing is using your money in order to be able to invest and make more money. So that's exactly what we should be doing as well. We should be playing the same exact game. And so how we're actually going to be able to do this again is going to be through other people's money, right? And then we're going to have the bank's money. And so what we'll do, right, is we'll take the bank's money. We don't have to go ahead and work for 5 to 10 years, right? We can just simply be able to go ahead and actually borrow some money. And instead, we can go ahead and invest into assets, right? We have assets as real estate. We have assets as businesses. We have assets such as car washes, flips, whatever, right? So whatever that can be able to help you make more money, right? And by being able to negotiate a great deal, then that's exactly what we want to do. So we can do a lot of different things, but we want to go ahead and start off with using other people's money. And so what this assets will do is create cash flow. So that's why real estate is great. That's why multifamily is great, because it really creates cash flow, right? And so you want to have other people's money, banks' money, assets, and then cash flow as well. And so this is going to help you be able to actually build out a whole portfolio But the main thing with this, right, is that I see a lot of people, even myself included, right? The biggest mistake I've ever made, right, was literally taking this money, thinking it was my money, right, and going ahead and spending it on liabilities. And so you might ask yourself, what are liabilities? Like cars, clothes, anything that does not necessarily make you money, you should not be spending it, especially with the bank's money. This is where it comes down to financial discipline, right? Because you want to be able to have this financial discipline, because if we can get this, right, and all we have to do is wait. If we can be able to get cash flow by using the bank's money, right, you can be able to go ahead and buy anything that you want. So if you want to go out and buy a G-Wagon, what the rich will ask themselves is not how much the G-Wagon costs, but what business or asset can I go ahead and actually buy that can be able to help me generate that actual monthly cash flow to be able to go ahead and pay for that G-Wagon. Do you see the difference in thinking, right? It's not that, oh, I have the money right now, I can just go ahead and spend it. Now you don't have the money and you also don't have the car. But if you went ahead and started and bought the asset first, now you actually have the asset and now you can actually get the car. And so the asset's going to forever be paying you, but you also have the car as well. That's the difference in thinking from the rich and the poor, right? So that's really going to be crucial, especially whenever you guys are starting off. So definitely go ahead and make sure to use the bank's money to create you wealth. The banks want to be able to lend you money. The banks want to be your business partner. As long as it makes sense to them and it makes them money, they're all in. So if you guys have found this video helpful, go ahead and make sure to subscribe and get your boy at 10K subscribers as soon as possible. We're going up. Best YouTube channel, best financial literacy channel out here. Let's get it. And like always, I'll see you at the top, my boy.